Hello YouTube, this is Undead's93 coming back at you with another deck profile. This is on my second deck that I built. First was my Chaos Breaker deck. Next is my Vowing deck, which is of the Narcomic clan. It's a very interesting deck. It's a very deck that is reliant on my opponent, which is a good and a bad thing, but it's kind of how Narukami works. So I'll start off with my starter. My starter is Ambush Dragon Eradicator Linshu. He is very good starting Vanguard, in my opinion, for Narukami in general, but he's only Eradicator Pacific. Basically, is when when the unit that he boosts hits, you counterblast one, throw him the soul, and you retire grade 1 or less. Which most of the time, the main thing that I use him to retire are starters, because there are starters in the game that net really good advantage, like Chrono Dran and other starters such like that allow your opponent to just gain free advantage. So you always want to use things that allow you to keep your opponent as less advantage as you can get. So we have with our trigger lineup, we have 4 crit, which is the Eradicator crit. Basically, what this unit does is when one of your rear guards, basically when he's put into the drop zone from the rear, his effect goes off. Is you look at the top 3 cards of your deck, you choose one Eradicator from it, add to hand. Which most times what I add is usually a unit that I will need there in that turn. So, like a Zuiatan, if I need damage on flipping for the turn, a Perfect Guard if I needed a Perfect Guard, and so on and so forth. And then he and the other 2 units go back to the 2 other cards get shuffled back into the deck. So he allows himself to basically recycle himself. We have 4 stand triggers to allow for more hits throughout the game. 4 draw, because this deck does need draw power. This doesn't have a draw engine. 4 heal, because you also need your heals. Now to our grade 1s, we have 2 Assault Eradicator Seki. He's a newer-ish card. Basically what he does is during your main phase, which is kind of a bad thing that I don't like with him, is that he has to be during main phase. There are a lot of Eradicator effects that go off during the ride phase, especially with just Eradicators alone. So I kind of wish that his effect was during whenever the turn was active, so that he could have more usage. But other than that, he's an okay card. I keep him at 2 because he's mostly just a damage flipper as well. So what he does is basically during the main phase, if a rear guard of your opponent's is retired in the front row, you still last one, you counter charge 1, which is really good. It basically works with all Eradicator boss monsters. We have 3 Deadly Eradicator OA. And basically what he does is basically when you ride a grade 3 Narukami unit, you put him to soul, and then and then you choose a front row unit of your opponent and retire it. Thing I like about him is that basically by the time you get to grade 3, so if your opponent's playing the grade 2 rush game at you, they'll have a full board, and you just ride into your grade 3, and then you'll get chucked to soul, and you get to freely retire a unit. One thing I hate with this, with common with that, is that he's during the ride phase, he doesn't get to go off. That's why I'm kind of wishing that he was during any time in the turn. Then we have 2 of Eradicator Fire Kajaki. I like him mainly due to the part that his effect goes off if my opponent has 3 or more damage, which is really easy to get, and plus he makes basically any strike turn even harder to guard for, since they'll get a plus additional 10,000. Then we have 2 of our Limit Break Enabler. Mostly with the Limit Break Enabler is to make sure that I can go off with some plays, but most of the time I usually can't. So that's why he's usually at 2. Because most of the time I'm either at 4 damage, but he can be used if I'm at, let's just say, like 3 damage with my main boss monster in the deck. We have our 4 PEGs, which is Eradicator, Wyvern Guard, Gold. Since we have Zuitan and Seki as possible outs to unflip damage, I don't see the point of running Anastasia. And plus, this lets me protect rear guards if need be, if my opponent is trying to swing large numbers at my rear guards. We have 2 of our Zuitan, who is our Unflipper and Soul Charger. So he basically allows some effects, well, only effect he allows is Sekai's effect to go off. Other than that, the Soul really isn't used in the deck. Then we have 2 of Florence Force, which basically what he does is basically when I ride a grade 3 Eradicator unit, I counterblast 1, and if I do, my opponent chooses a rear guard to retire, which is pretty good. The only bad thing is, since resist units are now a thing, you need to be very careful. Make sure that if there's a resist unit on the board, to get it off the board before Lawrence Force can get its effect off. So you don't want your opponent to choose the resist unit, and if so, that resist unit will not be retired, and then his effect goes basically useless. Then we have 4 of Rokishin. In my opinion, he's better than the other rear guard who gets bonus power when things are retired. Because when something is retired, Rokishin gains +5, while the other one gets +3, which the one that gets +3 is a 9k attacker, but only goes up to 12. And Rokishin goes up to 13. I know that does make Rokishin an easier target to swing it, but that's why Rokishin is run at multiple numbers in the deck. And we have our playset of Candleshink, who is our another interesting grade 2 unit, basically. With his effect is basically when a rear guard of my opponent's is put into the drop zone by effect of one of mine, his effect goes off, and basically both players choose a rear guard to retire, which he works really well with the crit trigger. So basically, you use something to retire when your opponent's units, his effect will go off. Both of us will have to choose a unit to retire. Most of the time, I'll make sure that the crit trigger is on the board, and the crit trigger will get retired. Crit trigger will allow me to get 1 free card to hand, basically, and my opponent will have to retire a unit. Then we have our main boss monsters. So we have 4 of the Break Ride Vowing Sword. It's a very fun boss monster. Basically, on ride, kind of for limit break, it's +10 and retire a unit in the front row. So he allows front row removal. So if need be, he does let me get rid of units, even if I have to break ride over break ride. And if my opponent's at 3 or more damage, he has to swing for 13, which is always a good thing to swing for bigger numbers. We have our main boss monster, who is Eradicator, Vowing Saber Dragon Reverse. I like him because, one, he works really well with the break ride and also with the engine that I have built. Basically with him, he is his skill is counterblast 2, choose 2 of my units and lock them face down, and then my opponent chooses 2 of their units to retire, and then he gets +10, so he gets to swing for bigger numbers. Good thing is he always combos well with Rokishin, because if my opponent does have to retire 2 units, Rokishin then gets bumped up to being 18,000 attacker, and if it was my break ride turn that turn, then he also swings for bigger numbers. And then there's also my Stride deck, which right now it's pretty small due to Narukami not having the best pull to use as of Stride units, right now we have 4 Zorus, who is mostly my first stride. Mostly what he does is on hit, I choose a unit to... my opponent chooses a unit to retire, and then after that, I choose 2 units from my opponent's drop zone and bind them, which is always a good thing, because if you're facing against a Legion deck, or Grand Blue, if you are facing Grand Blue, basically he allows you... he puts more pressure on your opponent to basically try to protect themselves from having their grave slaughtered away. Also, he's a lot better in Vanquisher. So Vanquisher skills revolve more around binding units. And we have our main stride of the deck, which is Conquest Supreme Dragon, or Conquering Supreme Dragon, Conquest Dragon. Let's see what his skill is. You flip a copy of him, you retire opponent's front row, and then his skill goes off. Basically, depending on how many units are on the front row of your opponent, your front row gets +5 per unit that's not there. So basically, no matter what, with his skill, he will always get the board front row +5. But if your opponent doesn't have any rear guards in the front row, he'll no matter what give your front row +10, since there isn't a unit to retire. Other than that, that is my Vowing deck. Other than that, that is it. I'll try to be more, vigilant with my uploads. I will try to upload more videos. I am working currently on an animation project. It is taking a bit to get the characters that I am working on being fully done. Other than that, I will post more of these deck profiles. I have 8 more decks to have, and then I also have 3 decks for Weiss Schwarz that I have worked on. I'm working on another one, but I have to wait till I get the rest of the cards from the from that set. But other than that, thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful day.